I'm going to talk today about personal power. So this is part of all of the videos that I'm doing about nice guys. Yeah, so I'm speaking mainly to men when I'm talking about this, because as opposed to people pleasing, nice guys are trying to please women because they have a story inside of them which is particularly attached to their story of masculinity. And so a nice guy is likely to be trying to please women in order to attain a level of approval which he couldn't possibly get from men, because the whole definition of manhood is a bit shifty. Yeah. But the way that you appease and hide the masculine elements of yourself in order to gain approval is in itself killing your personal power. It's killing your expressivity. It's killing your creativity. It's killing your joy. It's killing your potential in life. Yeah, you're saying, okay, so there are elements of me which are potentially violent, potentially aggressive, potentially childlike, potentially unapproved of. And so I'm going to put those in a box and I'm going to pretend that they don't exist. And I'm going to be really nice to people in the hope that they will love me unconditionally for being nice. And you know that's a game, even though it's at the back of your mind. The person that receives it knows it's a game, even though it's at the back of their mind. And you both implicitly pretend that it's not a game. Yeah? The end result is, though, that you feel utterly limited. It's like a pale imitation of yourself. There is no passion in life because when you do this and it works, it's not being you. When you do this and it doesn't work, that's just downright frustrating because it's exhausting and it's still not working, and then you have to try even harder. So it's kind of wimp. It's the exact opposite of what you're trying to achieve. The exact opposite, right? In order to be a charismatic, powerful, but safe person, you have to avoid yourself. You have to diminish your passions. You have to diminish your joy. So what can you do? For me, this is all about getting back to being yourself, right? In order to exhibit your personal power, yeah, in order to fill yourself up with it and just let it play on your own terms, knowing that you can trust yourself, knowing that you can own your own experience, you have to be comfortable with your extremities, yeah? You have to name and own your flaws, your limitations, your skills, the things that you're great at, the things that you're not great at, and just kind of own it without needing to prove it, because you're no longer seeking approval outside of yourself. So what it means is accepting that the stories that are running inside of you, they might feel like you, but they're just stories. And I know that's hard, yeah, because it feels like you, right? But you're forgetting that a story is just a story. You're forgetting that a thought is just a thought, yeah? And the more emotionally charged it becomes, the more it feels like you, whereas in actual fact, it's a perception which has come from a series of chance occurrences. It's about throwing away somebody else's cultural expectations of what you think they expect you to be and just being. Be you. Be you. If everybody is them. You see, the thing is, when you restrict yourself to how you think that you should be, then everything that you still are, but that you shouldn't be, screams out in frustration. That's why you end up with this pressure cooker approach, where you end up with occasional rage. You know, I'm being nice, I'm being nice, I'm being nice, I'm being nice. This isn't working. Why does people not like me? Why am I still lonely? Raw. And repeat. Yeah. So it's like every time you release the energy in the pressure cooker, then you then you think, oh gosh, right, now I need to try harder. And so you go back to being a nice guy again and again and again and again and again. Whereas in actual fact, you're just denying a part of yourself. Here's one way that you might be able to get back onto accepting that you are what you are. Think of a time in your life that was really bad, yeah? That was really tough. Maybe one that you've just tried your best to avoid. And consider what you've learned from it. Consider what, even though it might have been really, really rough at the time, what you've gained from it. Because normally, even in the most adverse of situations, you can find goodness in it. Even if the goodness is, well, I've learned that I'll never do that again, or I've learned that if I spot some of those traits, I will not go down that route again. Who knows, right? But you can normally find some goodness in the situations that come to you if you start to look at them as a gift rather than as a curse. Yeah? Every time you can do that, and there's probably many times if you're a member of the human race, then you're kind of accepting yourself for what you are rather than what you should be. And when you do that, you build your personal power because you no longer have to push against a should. You can own your reality and just be what you are. And then you've no need to prove it, so it doesn't matter what other people think. So therefore, you can exhibit your humanity. Yeah? And I'm not saying you do that in isolation. Obviously, we're all social beasts, so we rely on other people. But when you are pushing the expectation, the burden of approval of yourself onto others, you've lost all personal power. When you bring that inside your boundary, when you take responsibility, when you respond rather than react, you feel amazingly in control. Yeah? It doesn't mean to say that you won't be triggered. Of course you'll be triggered. You know, there's always going to be things that you don't realize are going on at the back of your mind that bang, in a second, they just get triggered. But when they do, you just go, ah, how intriguing. You know, there I go again, or something like that, rather than going, oh, here I go again, how useless I am. So what you're doing is you are owning all of your experience, which means embracing the great bits of you, but also the kind of the bits of you that you like less. Yeah. Like, I won't even say bad, because I don't think there's any such thing as good or bad. They're both just parts. What I'm saying, I guess, is mark your own scorecard. Own your current reality. That doesn't mean to say it's perfect. Nobody's reality is perfect. But own where you are, and then make strides towards wherever you want to go. You know, take responsibility for your choices. But you can only start to move in the right direction when you own and name where you are, right? And the funny thing is, when you're trying to please others, especially when you're putting women on a pedestal, because obviously they don't have these toxic masculine traits, and you're handing over your sense of approval to them, well, even if you get their approval, it doesn't work, right? Because you're not being you. And they kind of know that you're not being authentic, right? So the way to get your personal power is naming it, it's owning it, it's taking responsibility for it, it's expressing your feelings, it's facing your fears, it's telling the truth, yeah? It's having integrity and honesty, and all these things. Well, they're kind of uncomfortable because they have an element of risk that in so doing, you will be disliked, you'll be disapproved of, yeah? But the thing is, when you're in alignment with yourself, when you are congruent, when you are expressing your truth and people dislike it, it's kind of all right because it feels right inside of you. When you try and portray a false self and then they dislike it, oh God, that's awful. Yeah? I mean, talk about giving yourself an opportunity for self-flagellation, because you're not being true to yourself. So why on earth would anybody else like that? Set your boundaries where they belong, I guess, is another way of looking at it. Yeah? There are things which are inside of your control and there are things which are outside of your control. Let sleeping dogs lie. Let the things go outside of your boundary that are outside of your control. But the things that are inside, take action. You know, that's where your personal agency lies. That's where your flexibility, that's where your strength lies. And the people that relate to that will find you. Yeah. So the way that you become attractive, in my story at least, is by being you. And then you end up attracting people that like the sort of person that you are, and vice versa. And the world becomes a more harmonious place. Yeah? I hope that might be of interest. Thanks for watching. Take care. Cheers. Bye.